Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independence Free Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I've got my headphones in today because they're power washing out front of my house, so it's kind of loud. But I'm here to speak about this beautiful super full moon that is happening in Aries today and tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world. So this moon to me is all about accountability. Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. Aries is about the self. Aries is ruled by Mars, and right now Mars is in Scorpio. And Mars used to be the ancient ruler of Scorpio. So Mars understands how to work with water, be in water. Um, and it is really a beautiful energy if you can think about it, because that water is that divine feminine, and then Mars is that divine masculine now because he's moved into his divine phase. And so it's in there churning these waters, right? Or you could say impregnating them with new energy, new ways of being, new ways of moving forward. And that is new ways to take accountability for yourself, honestly. And that is the main theme of this full moon. And it's important to remember just on how it is in the what's going on politically in the world today. Mars still is that warrior, right? So if you feeling angry, pissed off, upset, notice that. Okay, give yourself some time, some space, as we always say. Give others time, space as well. It is a full moon, super moon in Aries. So people could be a little punchy, if you will. So be sure you give yourself grace and the others grace. And how you get to that grace is up to you. It could be, there could be some choice words before you get to grace, but still just give yourself some time. Okay. So this morning I was able to talk to one of my mentors. Um, Her name's Shelia Peters. You can find her on YouTube. She does stretch classes, but she works with energy work, and she was a real help with helping understand the energetics of this full moon to me, because there's so much going on, and being able to explain it with her because um, she's just been in this field so long with mastering energetics. So Aries is the self. Aries is movement. Aries is cardinal. So it is initiating this new way. And what's coming in is, if you are feeling pissed off, if you are feeling aggravated, it is highlighting places in our life, right, that need change, that need to be moved, right? Full moons illuminate. They allow us to see things maybe that we didn't see before. Or maybe we think we're seeing the same thing, right, over and over and over again. So what do we do, right? Especially, and I was talking to her in the contents of people that have been doing the work, that have been doing showing up for themselves, and they feel like maybe they're getting the same result. And this had come to me this weekend. I was in Alabama visiting my family, um, which is always a great place to have an epiphany, right? When you're visiting your family. But the idea or the words that just kept coming up to me was like, again, it is the full moon, right? Is this like aha moment? It is illuminating things about the self. And it was, well, maybe it's not you, right? Maybe it's them. Maybe it is the other. Maybe it is time to take a time out, right? Pump the brakes. And so I was telling her, so what was coming through was this idea of maybe it's not, so if we're going to put it in the context of the self. So it's like, so maybe it's not me. Maybe it's them. Okay, but then how do you balance that with the idea of, I do believe energetically we attract things. Okay. And so let's say, okay, I've been working on things. I feel like I'm still getting the same result, even though I've been working on things. And so basically it all made sense. So Aries being that divine masculine, Mars being that divine masculine is all about taking accountability now. When before that masculine, when was in that toxic masculinity, just kept moving through, didn't care what happened. Didn't care what happened. Things burned down, fuck it. I did this to you, fuck it. Whatever. I'm just going to keep moving, moving, moving. There was no accountability. So now in the stage of accountability, okay, so it's like, okay, I'm taking accountability for my feelings, taking accountability for my environment. Yet I keep doing this, dipping back to like this one thing. But I keep feel like energetically and just like in front of me, I'm getting the same result. So what is the thing that Mars in Aries feel really uncomfortable about doing? And that is stopping. That is slowing down. That is allowing. Okay. So, because the idea is when it was coming to me, and she helped me like to be able to put this in the words. So the idea is like, okay, if it's not me, it's you, and I'm stepping away from this scenario, and you're stepping away from the scenario, right? Because you've decided this has got to change. I can't keep allowing things to keep moving in this direction. So you got to stop. You got to change direction. And a lot of times, and Mars and Aries, they want to move in a different direction. They like movement, okay? Um, but a lot of times we don't change direction, or we feel like we're changing direction, or we don't allow ourselves to stop, or we don't allow ourselves time to pump the brakes and just give it a minute. First and foremost, that's can be extremely uncomfortable. Second of all, fear starts to set in. Well, if I stop, will it ever pick up again? Or if I stop, what if nothing else happens? So we start to then fill in the silence with fear. Okay. I'm guilty of it too. So, and the idea is, and she gave the example like she was like, okay, so like the example being, okay, so you walk down the street and you fall through a manhole. So you decide to walk down the same street and you walk on the other side, but you still fall down the manhole. So you decide to walk down the same street at a different time, but you still fall down the manhole. So the fourth time you decide, I'm just not going to walk down that street anymore. And this is the energy that we're working with this full moon. We have to stop. We have to take responsibility. We have to see the other for what it is and what keeps happening when we decide to participate with that energy. And I was telling her that I see this happening politically, right? So, because now we're in a shutdown. Um, and so, but it feels like this is the crossroad because we are at a crossroad. And with us as humans, we are at this crossroad with ourselves because it is this idea of getting us out of victimhood, right? Taking that responsibility, um, doing things differently. And, I work with people and I work with affirmations. And just this morning, a client came by and she's like, we got to talk. The affirmations, I love them. They're this on one hand, they're working, but on the other hand, they're not, right? So it's like, okay, so we'll work through this because the idea and this is happening a lot globally, energetically, astrologically, right? Getting out of this old energetic way of being. We can see things moving, but we can also look over here and see the shit show that's happening, right? And which we're leaving behind. And how do we not purposefully engage with it to keep it going, right? And I was telling Sheila about that. I was like, a lot of times when I have been able to walk away from situations, it was because I was able to really talk to my ego. And again, Aries and Mars, when they're in that lower vibration, it is all about ego, right? How can I keep this going? Or how's this going to look to the other people? Or, well, what about me, right? And so with this full moon, let it illuminate those parts of your ego that either want to keep you in that situation or have been indoctrinated to keeping you in that situation. And talk to your ego, talk to yourself. Um, because in order for things to change, we always say we have to sit with the uncomfortableness, we have to sit with the unknown. And coming to a realization like I can't keep doing this. Okay, I got to stop. First, that switches the energy, but being able to stop and sit with that uncomfortableness of like, well, what do I do now without falling too much into like a victim mentality or going into a victim mentality at all, right? Well, if I don't do this though, that means I'm a loser or I can't figure shit out or whatever, fill in the blank. And it's this idea of like, no, you have to go into that spiritual warrior training that Mars is in, that Aries is in. And the warrior can sit with the silence, can sit with the uncomfortable, that can sit with the stillness, right? Until energetically, Sheila kept talking about the auric field, right? Until, so I would say energetically, and she would say auric field. So, but this idea of like allowing things to shift in order to how to in order so you move forward in the right direction, in the right way, with the right center. Because if you know in your heart, um, you're doing all these things, you're showing up with this stuff, okay, you can't keep going into that old energy bubble and expecting whatever to show up. You got to take that pause. You got to take that. We're waiting on the winds of change. Okay, they're here, right? But we got to regroup with the self because this age of Aquarius, I can't. You're going to be hearing this until I die. It is about the self first, and then the community, or then the collective. And so we're all recalibrating ourselves, right? And we're recalibrating ourselves out of that old energy that we can still see on the planet, right? That we can still talk about when we talk about, toxic masculinity or toxic femininity or patriarchy, right? Every day people are starting to see it. Every day people are starting to understand it. Every day people are starting to take accountability for themselves. Men, women, they, them, however, right? It's about taking accountability for the self, right? What am I doing today? What am I giving my energy to? What am I practicing? And this can be hard, right? And we know this can be hard, especially when we get to a point where and that's why also this administration is really amping the shit up, because the winds of change are here. But if they keep us moving out of fear and struggle mode and survival mode, I mean, it is no like shocking that they keep cutting jobs and arresting people and wanting us to think that we don't have a choice, or we don't have any hope moving forward. And the reality of it is we have all those things. And, someone that does this, you just kind of hope people wake up a little faster, because the idea, it's like everything, their whole thing is like things being woke. Oh, we can't have a woke military. Okay, or you can't, I don't know, everything being woke. In if we can just change that word woke to be accountable. They don't want things to be accountable. They don't want organizations to be held accountable. But that's where we're at. We're in this change of people having accountability for themselves, right? Corporations having accountability. You can't pollute, okay? You got to be accountable. And this administration doesn't want that. They want to pollute. They just want to make money. They want to be corrupt. They don't want to be held accountable. And so, if there's any Democrats out there watching, or independents or whatever, if you guys can just get it through the main masses that woke equals accountability, I think things will start to change a lot faster, right? Because you do want to have an accountable military, right? You just can't go and bomb people and ravage and then keep moving. That's not who we are anymore. Like, you want companies to, like, they can't lend you a bunch of money and then not be held accountable because they didn't tell you that the interest that you're going to be paying, you're never going to be held, you're not going to be able to pay that off. Like, accountability is a good thing. Okay. This full moon is all about moving into this accountability. Mars and Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Pluto is that transformation and that transmutation. So it's a tough moon in the fact that, when we work with ourselves and and it's like, God damn it, there's one more thing I got to do, right? And the energy of that is yes. And sometimes what you got to do is just say, I'm not going to participate in that anymore. I'm going to give myself 6 fucking weeks, maybe a year, maybe 2 months, maybe 48 hours. Okay. But I'm not going to participate in that anymore. I'm going to go into the way of the warrior, the spiritual warrior. I'm going to meditate, right? And I'm talking figuratively, not literally, right? I'm going to wait and see where the winds of change are coming. to start making that new decision, right? To start being with the self. I mean, Aries is the self, right? Aries is that I am presence, right? You know, maybe I should, stop dating because I keep dating, or I keep bringing in people that ghost me, or I keep getting the same results, right? So maybe just take a time out, let things change around, or start dating people from a different town. You know what I mean? These are all these things that are coming up. Um, but it is working with this Aries energy of a taking accountability, taking that time out, realizing maybe it's not you, maybe it's them at the same time, right? Because we're in Libra season, we got to bring shit back into balance. At the same time, understanding I got to just wait a minute so things can come back into balance. I can't keep moving forward with the hope of, yep, I just keep going back down that same side of the street, but I'm not getting a new result, right? Maybe we wait, see a new plan, a new direction, a different side of the street, um, and start going in that way. And we were also, and because we were also talking like, so on the 6th, AI Atlas went by Mars, right? AI Atlas is glowing green. That's that heart chakra. At this time, we are moving back into we've got to start creating with that heart chakra. I've been talking about this for years. And if you want to learn a little bit more about AI Atlas, you can see the video that I posted before this one. And then you could also watch Stefan Burns. He's really good. Half the shit he says, I don't understand, but I feel like it's important to watch his videos. And then Heather Emsworth just released one where she has a woman channel. It's a little more intense, and it might be a little too far out there for people, um, but the energy, right, that's coming in from interstellar space, like they don't know where this thing came from, but here it is, right? It's glowing green, heart chakra. It just passed by Mars. Um, and that was on the 3rd, excuse me. On the 6th, we now have this full moon in Aries. Um, on the 10th, we have the 1010 portal. And then on the 13th, Pluto stations. Pluto rules Scorpio. Mars is in Scorpio. So we're in this big time of change, you guys. So if you're feeling kind of angry and pissed off, understandable, full moon Aries, but pay attention, see what it's illuminating. And maybe it's illuminating, you got to pump the brakes. You got to stop. You got to be like, maybe it's not me, maybe it's them. Okay. And so I'm going to take responsibility for myself and my energy. And I'm going to maybe take a time out. I'm either going to change completely and go in the different direction. But understanding things have to come back into balance. We always, especially people that do self-help or self-work, it's always like, well, what can I do? What can I do? Well, maybe what you can do is just stop looking outside of yourself, of course, for love and admiration, if you will, from the other. Keep working in on yourself, right? Or not even keep working, but just keep telling yourself you love yourself every day. Check in with your divine masculine and feminine. And let me tell you something. If you think about men and you hate them and you see them as whatever, that's a direct reflection of your divine masculine. If you think about your divine masculine or your divine feminine and one of them looks like a child, reach out to me because we can do I've got exercises we can do because we've got to grow up those divine sides of us. And your divine masculine and feminine need to be matching each other's energy, and they sure as hell better be age appropriate, okay? Because that's how we move forward as being aligned, okay? So check in with yourself. If you think about when you think about women or whatever, and you just see like 13, 12-year-olds, that's an aha moment. And if you think about men and you see the same thing, or you see them always being this way and that way, that's your aha moment. Okay. That's also checking in with the self. That is Aries. Aries needs to say, okay, how do I think about men and women? Oh, okay. Well, they're healed. Okay. They give me good advice. Because this is yourself. So we need to check in with yourself that way too. If there's still a part of you that feels wounded and needs healing, see that. Okay. Take a note, write that down. And then we can work on like how to heal that, how to move that forward. And because yourself will be telling yourself this, right? And it's just us to up and notice and be like, oh, okay, what can I do to heal that? It doesn't have to be this intense year-long program, therapy every day or anything like that anymore, because the energy on the planet is moving so fast. We've come out of that Kali Yuga. We have AI Atlas. We're ripping through our elliptical, right? It's about to go back around the sun, which is cool. Um, and we are in this age of Aquarius. So we are moving through and accepting this new energy to come in. Mars being in Scorpio right now, to me, is so telling, especially with everything that's happening with Mars, with 3i Atlas going by, this full moon in Aries, right, which is about the self, and wanting to move forward in a different way. Pluto's going to be transmuting all those old ways where Mars is and transforming that. We can't get around that because that's what Pluto does. And Pluto rules Scorpio right now. Pluto's in Aquarius. Aquarius rules the cosmos, right? We got interstellar guests coming in out of nowhere. But it's also how we think about things, right? And if this is how do we think about things? What do we do moving forward? So Pluto's been retrograde. So we're going over the past still, right? How do we move forward? I've been doing all these things. I'm getting some good results, but there's still maybe these little sticking points. Aha. Okay, so I'm going to put pins in those. I'm going to maybe take a time out, let Libra do its thing, bring things into balance. Work with myself to tell myself that I do love myself, bring myself back into alignment. Notice these things with the full moon. The full moon's when we're most psychic too. So what you're telling yourself is what you probably need to work on. And work on not like, oh, but just be like, oh, I get it. I see that, right? Again, woke, taking accountability, being awake to our subconscious. Oh, I get it now. Oh, I heard that now. Oh, now it's making sense, right? That's waking up. That's not a bad thing, you guys. That's not what's going to end humanity. Trust me. And so here we are with that energy of Aries, of paying attention. And it's so interesting too, because the moon on this one is red, right? Like Mars. So having a real this divine masculine energy is coming in and having a real say. So don't be distracted, right, by what's happening in the news. That's happening. But that doesn't mean that's where we're heading. Okay. That's another reason why it's important to get aligned with the self. What are you going to do today? What are you going to do that's different? How am I taking accountability for myself? Maybe it's not watching the news, right? But understanding Mars is in Scorpio, transmuting intensely all those old energies. So keep your eyes out for that because Mars wants to move forward and has to move forward. Aries has to move forward in this new aligned energy where the masculine and feminine are equal. Okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I feel good about that. Um, Again, if you're feeling a little edgy or punchy, understand it's still the full moon in Aries. So I'm about to go get out in the public. So prayers up for that. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out with this. But we are getting into this time of balance. And again, I always say the more they try to flare up things that are bad, the more that's signaling to you things are changing, right? Things are getting good. It's important for us to focus on that and maybe just to call bullshit on things. It's okay to call bullshit. I'm not participating in this anymore. It's not getting me anywhere. Every time I show up, the same thing happens. It doesn't mean that you're stupid or bad or doing things wrong. It's just that we have to get to that point where we see clearly what is going on, right? And that full moon is here to help us see clearly what is going on with the self, on with the other, right? So use this cardinal energy, start things. I am seeing things clearly. So maybe we'll end it with that. Okay, you guys, if you have any questions, please reach out, like and subscribe, all those things. If this is helpful for you, feel free to share it with a friend so we can grow the channel. because we are really in a good space. And I feel like I've been saying that for 5 years, since I started really doing this in like 2018, 2019, so maybe longer than 5 years. But um, it's amazing how different the energy is now compared to what it was 5 years ago, and even compared to what it was just a year ago, right? Things are really shifting quickly on the planet. So the more we can get people in the groove, and it doesn't mean things are going to be perfect. Like there's still going to be challenges because that's Earth, right? But it does mean that we get to change the tides quicker, bring better energy in quicker, feel better about ourselves quicker, manifest our happiness and our sanity and our peace quicker. So happy supermoon. It means it's energetically, I mean, it looks closer, right? Mathematically, it's closer, it's close to the earth. So, and I think that's really important too. The masculine and feminine are apart from each other, right? And she's reflecting the sun's light. That's how we get these full moons. So, but she's really close. The feminine is really close at this time, right? Saying, okay, Mars is over in Scorpio. Um, Sun is in Libra, who's ruled by Venus. Okay. We're really, really balancing these masculine and feminine energies. Let's take that time out, see where you can sit with this, see where you can turn things around. Okay. All right, friends. Until next time, happy full supermoon in Aries.